we had a path forward. So first, I want to thank everyone in our community for your patience. Last June 25th, it came as a shock and surprise to all of us that TDOT safety engineers said the bridge was not safe and we had to close it immediately. This was something that was unexpected and very difficult for all of us to deal with who use that bridge regularly, including myself and other members of our community. So we have been working since that day to evaluate how to repair the bridge and how we could reopen it. And today we have some answers. So just as a little context, this bridge was originally built in 1898. So it's 127 years old, and that has had some wear and tear. So in late June, the TDOT engineers inspected it and required us to close the bridge to all traffic due to load-bearing concerns. And every day since then, my office is right up here. I look out at that bridge every day, and I know, it's sad to see that there's nobody on it. And so we have been working since that day to try to know what the repairs are so we could reopen it. I've learned a lot about structural engineering in that time. And one thing I've learned is that this bridge that was built in 1898 did not include redundancy, the way modern bridges are built. So that means if one element fails, the whole bridge collapses and it could be catastrophic and have mortal consequences. So just as an illustration for that wear and tear that happened since 1898, here's a nut that is cracked. You can see this is from 127 years of load bearing. And of course this bridge built in 1898, nobody had cars then. It was like horse and buggies and people walking. And so it's really remarkable how long the bridge has lasted, frankly. And here's another example of a nut. This is wear and tear, just from 127 years of bearing traffic. And again, the loads it was bearing in the first 60 years was maybe lighter than the loads it's been bearing in the last 50 years. So the wear and tear is we could see it and it's tangible. And so we're really grateful for our structural engineers, our TDOT safety inspectors for catching this before anybody got hurt. With public safety in mind, we are now aware that the bridge, unfortunately, is never going to be able to resume everyday traffic. This is not something we were hoping we could restore it back to its regular loads, and that is not possible because of the wear and tear after 127 years. We are, however, glad to announce that we do expect to be able to reopen it to pedestrians and cyclists, and after additional load-bearing evaluation and analysis, we also hope to be able to open it to emergency vehicles and the CAT bus on a limited, controlled basis with some kind of gate. We don't know exactly how that looks, and we have to, of course, get this all approved through TDOT safety engineers before we move forward. But we have been working hand in hand with our consultants and with city engineers and with TDOT to have this plan going forward. We now know we have not to exceed cost of the repairs. It's going to be $2 million, or will not exceed $2 million. So I will be bringing that to council on the first council meeting in March it is part of a budget amendment to include that because we want to get started on this right away. And again, we have been working on this, evaluating this since June 25th, modeling, trying to evaluate the safety concerns, how we could restore and reopen this to the public, and we're ready to go as soon as we can get that $2 million approved. We already have contractors and so forth ready to get started. So this is an important connection. It's been something that the people of Knoxville have used to cross the Tennessee River since 1898, and so we are eager to reopen it to the capacity we can. These repairs are going to be complicated. Most likely the repairs will be done from a barge that will be parked underneath the bridge, so that requires permits from TWRA, and it's a very bespoke process where they'll have to take down the warped elements one at a time, measure, repair, not repair the elements, replace it, but careful measurements for each piece. So this will take several months, and Chris Howley is here from the city. He's our Deputy Chief Engineer, and Jason Brady from Gresham Smith will be able to answer more specifics about the nature of the deterioration and also the nature of the repairs. I have learned a lot about structural engineering, but I'm not an engineer, and we'll be glad to let them answer those specific details. While the repairs of the current bridge are underway, we will also be evaluating how to possibly replace the bridge overall. That will be a much longer term process. Obviously, brand new bridges are major expenses where we would seek state and federal support for that. But we don't know exactly what that will look like. Again, this was an unexpected occurrence. And so, but it's a beautiful bridge. It's an iconic part of our city. And so I hope that we can preserve the current Gay Street Bridge as a pedestrian and bicycle access, and then we'll consider what we might do for a replacement bridge moving forward. So I'm happy to take any questions. Jason Brady, raise your hand. He's here from Gresham Smith. And Chris Howley, please raise your hand. He's here from the City of Knoxville Engineering Department. And Vice Mayor Smith, he's here. He represents South Knoxville and has been very engaged with community members, as have I, who are most immediately affected by the closure of this bridge. They've been wondering when it could reopen, and now, although it's not restoring it to the amount of traffic it used to have, safety comes first, and we do now have a plan to reopen it to pedestrians and bicyclists. We hope to get this done by the end of this calendar year or early 2026, which sounds like a long time, but we do have a plan, and I'm glad that we have more certainty going forward. Any questions?
Does this change any plans for the other pedestrian bridge that was approved earlier this year?
No. The RAISE grant is specifically, very intentionally, for a site that was selected, over 15 years ago. That site has been picked very specifically and evaluated. And when you get federal and state dollars towards a project, you don't get to pick and choose how to spend it. You have to spend it for the purposes for which you received it. So that pedestrian bridge that's further west on the river, further downriver, is moving forward. This does not affect that in any way.
Was the damage, is the problem with rebuilding it for regular vehicular traffic that it can't be done, or that it would be prohibitively expensive?
I'll let Chris Howley answer that one.
It's that it would be prohibitively expensive. At the end of the day, in 2001 to 2004, we did a bridge rehabilitation project, and it largely just was the deck of the bridge. To do any repairs to the arches themselves, replacement or anything like that in kind, it would require you to take the deck off, which $2,001 is $16 million, and to start replacing arches. And the rest of the bridge that we don't replace would still be 127 years old. And so the idea of another arch having the same kind of failure, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, it really doesn't make a financial sense to try to do a repair of that magnitude.
Did you run the numbers on what that would actually cost?
We haven't run the numbers on the specifics, but when you start getting into the scale of what we're talking in the $40, $50 million for a repair of a bridge that's that age, and we still haven't got into the details, it's probably a lot more than that, and you're really talking about the valuation of a new bridge. And so starting with something that's not only new and would have less maintenance, but it's this redundancy the mayor had mentioned earlier. It's a single redundancy bridge in the context that it's in right now. A replacement bridge would not have single redundancy. It would be dual redundancy. So if something went wrong, there'd be an opportunity to repair it without a failure of the bridge. So it's kind of it's served its life. A typical life of a bridge like that is in the 70 to 80 year window. We're at 127 years. So we bought time with a lot of these projects that we've done to rehab it in the past, and we're just at a point where that's not practical at this point in time.
You mentioned the current bridge will be open to pedestrians at the end of this calendar year. Is that correct?
Well, I like to manage expectations. We hope it'd be the end of this calendar year, but it could be into early 2026.
When will people be able to hear a little bit more as that process goes along about when it's going to open?
That is what we know. That's what you're hearing. Like the end of 2026, end of 2025, early 2026. that's the best information we have at this time. If it's going to be later or sooner, hopefully sooner, we'll be sharing that as soon as we have it. We have a web page dedicated to the Gay Street Bridge where we're going to be sharing these updates that we're sharing with you right now. And as soon as, whenever we have new information, we will post it there and share it with the media.
How can people engage with the process of the new bridge that you've announced?
The pedestrian bridge?
No, sorry, the replacement bridge.
Oh, well, that again is going to be a longer term process. We don't even have, we haven't even taken the first steps. We want to first do what we can to repair the existing bridge and open it up to the amount of loads that is still safe for it to take. And considerations of replacement bridges, we will engage the public. That's going to probably be something that we work with TPO, and again, we'll need federal and state funding. So all the regular processes will have to, we'll have to go through that so the public can engage with that all along. But again, that's something that will take years to evaluate and consider and fund.
Is there an extension on the estimate of the lifespan, or an estimate on the extended lifespan?
Once we reduce, since it's going to not have motorized vehicles on it, how long will it last? You want to tackle that one?
Sure.
Our intent for doing these repairs is to allow the city time to be able to go and get funding to replace the bridge. And so we're hoping that maybe that's somewhere in a 5 to 10 year window, but we don't expect that this bridge is going to be in service any longer than that.
To anybody, including pedestrians?
No, we would really hope that in 10 years that it's not. That maybe the new bridge, a replacement bridge, would have adequate or enhanced pedestrian facilities on that bridge.
Would you mind restating that for us?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but just going again, you said that in 5 to 10 years' time, this bridge would not even be usable for pedestrians. Is that what you're saying?
We don't think so at this time. That's our intent of doing these repairs is to buy ourselves a little bit of time, and we're thinking maybe that's 5 to 10 years to give the city enough time to get a replacement bridge planned and get funding for that bridge planned. But no, the idea of this lasting longer than that is not really what we're doing these repairs for.
Well, and in our conversations with TDOT, they have been annually inspecting this bridge. That's the normal course of business, and they have said that they're going forward, they would expect it more frequently, maybe every 6 months or more as needed. So we want to make sure it's safe. That's top concern. And, but we think that with these repairs that cost $2 million, that we'll be able to reopen it to pedestrians and bicyclists and emergency vehicles, for up to 10 years, maybe longer, but it buys us some time, as he said, to consider what to do for a longer term solution.
Mayor, you mentioned the safety is first aspect and how they might move to 6-month inspections. How can maybe somebody from engineering talk through how within the year of time that the bridge wasn't inspected, something happened to cause this level of damage?
Okay, Chris, you want to field that?
To tell you exactly what happened in that window of time, it's actually an every other year process. They have started in more recent years doing this more frequent inspection because of the age of the bridge. It's not common amongst other bridges throughout the community. But to tell you exactly what happened, we don't really know that information. What we know is that when they did their last inspection, which was in 2022, that the bridge was rated as fair. And in this case, it went down below fair, poor, and then they asked us to close it because of the critical nature of it. And so to say exactly what happened to cause some of these during that time, we just don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to that question.
Yeah, but I invite you and other members of the media to look at these images to see, a layperson like me looking at them, I'm like, oh, looks the same as ever. What's the problem? But an engineer, it might, can look at it and be like, oh, well, this is supposed to be smooth and it's, wavy. And, maybe some of those issues, weren't noticed or didn't exist when the safety inspection happened in 2022. We don't know. We don't have images from that time.
Could one of y'all explain the images that are up there?
Sure. Dawn, if you can point to the center image and show the low chord that's in question. So this low chord, it may be tough to see from a distance, but it's designed to be in a straight line, and it is not. It has buckled, so it's got kind of a wavy shape to it. It's not supposed to look like that, and so
Where we point to the waves?
Yeah, it's like right this area here. You can kind of see how it's straight right here, and then you can kind of see how it's buckled laterally this way when it gets right here.
And then in the picture to the left of that, what happens is this starts to move as it puts additional pressure on the lacing bars. You can see in that picture where that lacing bar, they should be nice and flat, and then the one in the center is obviously distorted. And so that's part of our repair, is getting in there, taking off those lacing bars one at a time and replacing them with good new metal, and then for the member that is showing the signs of distress, putting in additional shoring over to the other side, which is continuing to remain in a straight line, and so that they're sharing the load better. That's the idea of the repair. And that's also that buckling is the nature of the need to close the bridge.
Just a question of clarification, the long-term plan is to replace the bridge, is that correct?
Well, we're going to evaluate that and see, what the traffic needs are and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think that's an important connection, and I think that the people of South Knoxville have grown accustomed to that. Exactly what that looks like remains to be seen. But yes, I think that's an important connection that we need to maintain. And again, we have a lot of questions to answer on that. We don't have a fixed plan yet.
Is the city still seeking $100,000 at council next week for the contract with Freshman?
Is that, yes, that is on the schedule, that's on the agenda for next week. So council, Vice Mayor Smith is here. Obviously, council members are very concerned about this closed bridge, and I think that they'll be happy that we're able to move forward, even though it's not a, 50 or 100-year solution. It does sound like it's a 10-year solution.
And what does that addition cover? The contract?
What does that 100,000 contract cover?
It basically will help cover when the construction begins, and we have a contractor out there working. We need experts to monitor the work that they've done, and Gresham has those experts on their staff, and they'll be the ones to do those inspections to make sure that things are done properly.
Another engineering question. Given its current state, I know that they closed it in June, how long could it have gone, or was it in imminent danger of collapse? Or is that, can you determine that?
I don't think we have an answer to that. No, we cannot determine that. We just know that it doesn't look like it should.
It's really hard to measure catastrophes that don't happen. But I am really grateful for our safety inspections. Like, you don't want to be, the mayor that didn't stop traffic on a bridge because it might have collapsed. So we don't know when or if it might have been a catastrophic failure, but we know that we're addressing it now.
We have time for one more question. For the people who rely on the bridge and will continue to need another valve to release the pressure in South Knoxville, is the city going to do anything else in the meantime of when conversations of the new bridge?
Well, we've already taken some measures to improve traffic flow on Chapman Highway. We're working closely with TDOT to improve some safety measures on the Henley Bridge. And we have a lot of projects going on Chapman Highway for improved safety, for pedestrian crossings, for automatic traffic signal improvements. So there's a lot of work going on Chapman. We also, of course, have the James White Parkway Bridge, Alcoa Highway Bridge. So I think that, as inconvenience, as big of an inconvenience as it has been, people have found a way since June 25th to navigate that, and we want to make sure that the extra loads going to other locations, are done as safely as possible. So there's a lot of projects in place, particularly for Chapman Highway, and obviously Alcoa Highway is an ongoing, state TDOT project. So I'm confident that people can get around the city, not necessarily the way they have the last 127 years, but there are other ways. We're a city. We have many connections. We want to fix this connection. It's not going to be the way it was before, but we are going to restore that connection to the best we possibly can.
Can I just add one thing to that,
Yeah.
Mayor? Thank you. There's been, over the past year, I've been able to listen, as has the mayor, and talk to a lot of people who live in South Knoxville and rely on all the bridges. And so I support all the bridges and want them to all be open as much as possible. But there's two things that have been made clear. One is people will like that bridge for its practical use and for its iconic design. So I think to the mayor's point, whatever new bridge emerges a decade down the road needs to retain that kind of iconic nature. The second thing is, if we can't have it and it's not safe the way it is now, let's reopen it to what we can, particularly the Sevier Avenue merchants. All of those businesses along Sevier Avenue are the lifeblood of that corridor, and they have asked us, if at all possible, please make it open to pedestrians. And so there is a scenario where another mayor or another decision could be made of just keeping it closed, period. But that's not what has been decided, and I'm glad the mayor's acting quickly. And so that's why the $2 million will immediately impact all of the city, but most pointedly the people who rely on foot and pedestrian traffic for their business. And so I'm excited about the good news of that. If there's any silver lining, it's that those businesses will have people coming to and from them from downtown in a year's time. Thanks.
All right, thank you all very much. You can come see the pictures if you want to hold the damage. Not
If you guys have any additional questions about these images, the engineers will stay here to help kind of answer and walk through some of these boards for you.
very dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Do not drop them.
They're already broken.
No, do not drop them.